"Congratulations," he said, like he was doing me a favor. "Congratulations, you're fired. My name is Olivia Brooks. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Has anyone ever treated your life's work like disposable napkin paper and smiled while doing it? Because that's exactly what Greg Winters did to me. We were in the middle of the weekly pre-funding huddle. 10 people, 2 VCs, and one overconfident CEO standing at the head of the conference room table with a mug that said, "I built this." He didn't. I did. He leaned against the whiteboard with a smugness that came free with his father's loan and said, "Well, Liv, the board and I agree that your services are no longer aligned with our vision. So, congratulations, you're fired." Laughter. Chuckles. A few awkward coughs. I sat still, hands folded over the laptop I had built our presentation on. Our product's entire future, the source code, analytics, rollout strategy, funding structure, was right there on the machine in my lap. Greg held out his hand like I was supposed to shake it. Instead, I stood up slowly, walked over, and placed the laptop in his palm. I smiled, calmly, the way someone does when they know a secret the room doesn't. "Good luck with the investor presentation tomorrow," I said softly. He blinked. "Thanks." Security appeared like clockwork. I guess they were on standby. As if I'd make a scene. "Please." I had no interest in yelling. What I was about to do would echo much louder. I let them walk me through the lobby like I was some intern caught stealing post-it notes. The receptionist, Rachel, looked up with wide eyes. She knew. Everyone knew. Greg had it out for me for months. Ever since Forbes Tech published my piece on ethical AI systems, and it outperformed his press tour. But firing me the day before the company's $10 million Series B pitch? That was new levels of stupid. I stepped out into the sun and didn't even flinch when the door shut behind me. Then I took out my phone, opened a simple app one had buried beneath two-factor passwords. The screen flashed green. Activated. Inside that laptop, nestled deep within the beautifully polished investor slideshow, was a simple line of code. Something Greg never knew I embedded because Greg never asked how anything worked. He just took credit for what did. Back at home, I made tea. Not whiskey. Not wine. Not ice cream. I didn't need comfort. I needed clarity. The presentation was set to auto-launch at 9 a.m. the next day. Exactly 10 minutes before that, their entire pitch deck would be replaced by a full-screen message. This product was built on stolen work. Ask better questions. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Trigger confirmed. File opened. Payload deployed. Investor meeting in session. I sipped my tea and waited for the fire I knew was coming. Before they called it his company, it was our idea. I met Greg in a university co-working space when I was 23. He had the charisma. I had the code. He pitched a vision of decentralized digital tools for small businesses, sleek apps, low-code platforms, equity access. Sounded noble. Sounded innovative. But underneath all that charm, Greg was a crow with gold-painted feathers, shiny on the outside, but scavenging for what others built. Still, I was young. I wanted to believe we were building something that mattered. He said, "Let's change the world." I said, "Let me write the framework." I designed the architecture, the infrastructure, the automation behind the dashboard investors couldn't stop gushing over. He told me, "You're irreplaceable." And I believed it, until the money started rolling in. The first $1.5 million in seed funding came with a new board and new dynamics. They looked at Greg when he spoke. They looked past me when I did. He started calling me Liv, even in meetings, to make me seem small, like the helpful assistant who brings the magic, not the mind behind it. When journalists came calling, he was the visionary, and I, just the lead engineer. He began hiring people who mirrored him, loud, shiny, full of fluff. One day, I found out my name had been removed from the patents I filed under the company's R&D. I confronted him. His answer? "You're overreacting. We did that for simplicity. It's still yours in spirit." Spirit? Is that what my 90-hour weeks were worth? Spirit? It only got worse. The month before I was fired, Greg brought in a strategic consultant, Marla, to help polish our next funding round. She looked me up and down like I was chewing with my mouth open. During our first conversation, she said, "You're clearly brilliant, Olivia, but sometimes technical people just don't get the investor landscape. We need front-facing thinkers now." That week, I got a memo. My role was being restructured. No severance. No equity. No explanation. I wasn't fired then. I was boxed in, kept on for my labor, denied recognition for the results. So, I stayed. Not for them, for the product. The users. The code I still believed in. I gave myself one mission. If they ever pushed me out for good, they wouldn't get to steal my legacy. So I rewrote the core of the deck myself. Polished the slides. Packed the visuals. But I buried a trigger. A lock inside the UI. Nothing malicious. No viruses. No destruction. Just truth. A redirect. When the file was accessed during their confidential pitch, it would reveal itself. A single sentence across a black screen. This product was built on stolen work. Ask better questions. As I stood in my apartment that night, watching the sun set over a city I once thought I'd conquer with Greg at my side, I smiled. They took my name off the credits, but I'd left fingerprints in every corner of their empire. And tomorrow, those fingerprints would speak. The kill switch wasn't meant for revenge. It was a safety net, in case the wrong hands got too greedy. The wrong hands did. And now, it was time to let it speak. I had embedded it 6 months ago during one of those all-nighter builds when Greg and the board had decided that hiring PR firms was more important than QA testing. They were so obsessed with optics that they never questioned how the code ran, just whether it looked sleek on a 4K screen. So I gave them sleek. And I gave them a loaded gun with no safety. The version of the investor presentation on that laptop had a small script embedded deep within its API, one that cross-verified user credentials, MAC address, and IP range. If all three didn't match my own secure profile, the code flipped. Instead of displaying this slick interactive dashboard with revenue projections and customer heat maps, the screen would go black. Then red. Then one sentence would appear. This product was built on stolen work. Ask better questions. Simple. Undeniable. Devastating. At 9:12 a.m., I was sitting in a coffee shop 5 blocks from our office tower. The place was buzzing with holiday traffic. Lattes. Cinnamon rolls. Bluetooth calls, and fake smiles. I had a window seat and a single notification tab open. At exactly 9:13, it blinked. Triggered. Round pushpin location. Conference room B. Satellite antenna IP match. Denied. Green circle activation. Success. I didn't sip my coffee. I didn't move. I just watched as the second notification hit. VPN tunnel active. Outbound traffic blocked. They couldn't shut it down remotely. They couldn't restart it without triggering the full script. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then 30. At 9:47, the real chaos began. LinkedIn posts from junior staffers. Tweets from VCs in the building. Something weird just happened at the Novatech pitch. Not sure if it was a stunt or sabotage. Investor demo gone sideways. Red screen. No product. Zero prep. Wild. Word on the floor is someone got fired yesterday and they took their legacy with them. Greg tried to play it off, I'm sure. Tried to reset the deck. Restart the laptop. But the code was timed to kill everything for 24 hours. No reboot. No access. No fixes. The only thing it would display now was that single line. This product was built on stolen work. Ask better questions. A few interns posted blurry images of it on Instagram. One investor, someone I vaguely recognized from a roundtable I was excluded from, posted a single sentence. She warned them. Back in my apartment, I opened a bottle of cranberry sparkling water and sat on the couch. No music. Just the soft vibration of my phone lighting up again and again and again. Text from Greg. WTF did you do? Message from Marla. You've ruined everything. Voicemail from Rachel at the front desk. You okay? I'm rooting for you. I never replied to Greg. Not with words. Instead, I uploaded my portfolio, the original schematics, code commits, timestamps, and contributor logs to a private drive. Then I sent the link to exactly one person. Jillian Monroe, lead investor, tech watchdog. The woman Greg once told me to stop pitching like she's going to take you seriously. The subject line of my email was simple. Ask better questions. Silence can be the loudest kind of revenge, especially when it's weaponized with dignity. I didn't do interviews. I didn't tweet. I didn't leak my side to the press. I just let the truth speak for itself. And the truth? It was a tidal wave. By midday, the VC firm had issued a pause on the Novatech deal. The investors were spooked, not just by the technical failure, but by the implications. If Greg had cut out the person who built the product, what else had he lied about? My email to Jillian Monroe had done its job. She forwarded it internally, flagged it for legal review, and scheduled a board meeting by 5 p.m. She never replied to me directly. She didn't have to. By 6 p.m., Greg's LinkedIn was set to private. By 7 p.m., Marla's agency had scrubbed all mention of Novatech from their portfolio. By midnight, every news cycle had picked it up. Startup crashes during $10 million pitch after hidden message appears. Founder fired engineer. Forgot she built the engine. Who is Olivia Brooks? And me? I was coding. Not for revenge. For rebirth. See, what no one knew, not even Greg, was that I had already begun building something else. A new company. A leaner platform. More ethical, more secure, more user-first. Quietly funded by a few of the same angel investors who once ignored me in meetings. Apparently, all it takes for them to notice is a public implosion. A week later, I got an unexpected visitor. Rachel, the receptionist from the lobby, had left Novatech. She brought cookies. I just wanted to say, she said, placing them on my kitchen table, you weren't crazy. Everyone saw what was happening, but no one knew what to do. She handed me a small folder. Notes. Memos. Even a few emails between Greg and Marla trash-talking me. I smiled. Not because I needed it, because she needed to give it. Thank you, I said. Greg, meanwhile, was spiraling. A leaked voicemail surfaced. Him yelling at a developer, blaming everyone but himself. The board issued a statement. We are conducting a full review of leadership decisions and IP claims. Translation. He was finished. But still, I didn't say a word. The next day, Jillian Monroe called. Her voice was low. Professional, but careful. I've reviewed everything. I believe your claim is airtight. I'd like to offer you something. I waited. Full backing. $3.5 million. Your product. Your name. Your rules. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then I asked, why me? Now. She paused. Because you didn't scream. You didn't burn the building down. You just built something better and let their house collapse by itself. I signed the next morning. Novatech was declared a toxic brand within the month. Greg stepped down to pursue other interests. Marla moved to consulting abroad. And every investor who once ignored me, now they all suddenly had time for coffee. But I didn't need their validation. The only name that mattered was mine. And finally, the world knew it. Some men only understand power when they lose control of it. 2 weeks after Novatech's spectacular collapse, I was prepping the beta demo for my new platform, Ardencore. I hadn't announced it publicly, just a private list of early testers, mostly engineers and developers who had quietly messaged me with, if you ever build something, I want in. We weren't sleek yet. We weren't noisy. But we were clean, fast, and honest. Then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, until a voicemail dropped. Olivia. It's Greg. I think we should talk. That voice, that silky, smug drawl that once charmed investors like bees to a glass of bourbon. I listened in silence. Look, we both know what happened wasn't ideal. But we can fix this. I've got some people interested in a rebrand. I'm open to, well, look, let's talk about equity. I think we can help each other. I didn't laugh. But I did replay the voicemail. Twice. The desperation in his voice was a symphony. A few hours later, I got an email. Subject line: "You win. I surrender." From Greg. A PDF attached. A formal offer to join his restructured board. A title. A salary. A 3% stake. 3% of a company I had designed, launched, coded, debugged, and made famous through fire. I forwarded it to Gillian Monroe. She replied in 5 minutes. "Delete it. You've already outbuilt him. Don't look back." So I didn't. I got back to work. And 3 weeks later, we launched Ardent Core Alpha. No PR blitz. No champagne. Just an invite-only demo, streamed live to 50 handpicked clients, journalists, and industry leaders. At the end of the demo, I clicked on the last slide. Built by the hands they tried to erase. The chat blew up. Investors sent meeting requests within the hour. TechCrunch emailed asking for an exclusive. And on Twitter, I trended for 48 hours. The engineer they fired just out-engineered an entire company. Olivia Brooks just silently ended Tech Brothers. The next morning, my inbox lit up again. "Greg, you could have just said no. You didn't have to humiliate me. You were always better at code than people. You'll regret not having allies." I stared at the last message for a moment and replied with one sentence: "Allies don't fire their team and steal their work." Then I blocked him. That afternoon, Ardent Core hit 10,000 users. Our waitlist grew faster than our servers could breathe. I spent the evening walking through the city, hoodie up, headphones in, smiling at nothing in particular. Not because of revenge. Because of freedom. Greg had once told me I was too soft to be a founder. But power doesn't always look like shouting across boardrooms. Sometimes it looks like building in silence until the whole world turns to listen. You can delete my name from the slides, but you can't erase what I built. Greg learned that the hard way. After Ardent Core's explosive debut, I didn't hear from him again for a while. Until I did. It started with whispers in forums. Old Novatech clients reporting strange data issues. Backend crashes. Customer service going dark. Then a whistleblower post surfaced online, anonymous, but clearly from an inside developer. They're reusing Olivia's architecture without permission. It's Frankenstein together with free plugins. No updates. No security. Reddit exploded. Twitter lit up. People started comparing Novatech's new site to Ardent Core's UI. Pixel for pixel. I didn't have to say anything. The internet did it for me. This is theft. Olivia should sue. It's like watching a copy-paste crime in 4K. Then a journalist emailed me. Claire Torres. TechPulse Weekly. Off the record. I've been investigating Novatech's rebrand. Would you like to comment? I paused. Thought about it. Then replied with one sentence. I'll speak. On record. We met in a cafe 2 blocks from where I was once fired. She pressed record. I spoke. Calmly, clearly, and without venom. I didn't burn Novatech to the ground. I just stopped holding up the roof. She asked about the code, the sabotage rumors, the presentation failure. I didn't confirm or deny. I just said, sometimes silence is consent. And I no longer consent to being silent. The article dropped 3 days later. The girl they fired. Front page. Thousands of shares. In it, Claire detailed the timeline, the sabotage, the whistleblower leaks, the parallels between the platforms. She ended with this quote. They erased her name from their boardroom. But now, it's the only name anyone remembers. Greg tried to do damage control. He posted a video. Him in front of a whiteboard, babbling about leadership transitions and unexpected technical challenges. The comments shredded him alive. Apologize to Olivia. Still blaming your team? Weak. She's 10 steps ahead. You're jogging in flip-flops. By evening, the Novatech site went down again. Then, the final nail. Claire's article got picked up by a national outlet. I was invited to speak on a tech ethics panel alongside Gillian Monroe and 2 major startup founders. On stage, under soft lighting, I told the story again. Not as revenge. As a warning. If your company depends on silencing the people who build it, then you're not running a business, you're running a graveyard. The audience erupted. I looked out and saw so many young women, coders, founders, interns nodding, taking notes. One had tears in her eyes. Later that night, I got one last message from Greg. A single word. Why? I stared at it. Did he really not know? Then I typed back. Because you thought firing me was the end of my story. But it was just the end of yours. And I hit send. Revenge was never the plan. But respect? That became the mission. 6 months after launching Ardencore, we were profitable. Not unicorn level, not yet. But healthy, ethical, respected. Exactly what Novatech claimed to be before it collapsed. I'd been invited to panels, conferences, even Harvard's Innovation Lab. But my proudest moment? The day a 17-year-old coder from Detroit met me. I read about what happened to you. I was going to quit CS. But now I'm learning backend. I want to build stuff too. That message hit harder than any feature article. It reminded me that I wasn't just building software anymore. I was building belief. So I started the Erase to Empowered initiative, a mentorship and microfund program for underrepresented women in tech. We gave seed money. We hosted free workshops. We matched girls with mentors in real startups. I watched them transform like I once did. Not because someone saved them, because someone finally saw them. Meanwhile, Novatech's ashes smoldered. The company filed for bankruptcy. Greg was sued by 2 ex-employees over unpaid wages. Marla vanished from social media. Rumors said she'd moved to a remote town in Idaho for clarity. I didn't follow up. Let ghosts stay ghosts. What mattered now were the girls pitching their apps with spark in their eyes. The interns asking me how to negotiate salaries. The way our office whiteboard had a handwritten quote across the top. Build in silence. Rise in surround sound. One afternoon, I got a letter. An actual paper letter. No return address. Inside, in careful cursive. You were always going to outgrow them. Sorry it took me so long to believe it. Rachel. The receptionist. I remembered how she'd looked at me on the day I was fired, quiet, but not unseeing. She had left. Started a UX boot camp. Now she ran design for a small fintech startup. I smiled. We were all rising. That night, I walked into the Ardencore headquarters, glass walls, clean lines, the hum of people who wanted to be there. My assistant met me at the door. Media's waiting. You ready? I nodded. A journalist was there for a profile piece. The woman who coded her way out. They asked about Novatech.
Greg.
The sabotage. I gave them what they needed, but not what they expected. That story isn't about how I was erased. It's about how I rewrote everything they tried to delete. The interview ended. The lights dimmed. And I stood there for a long time, looking out the tall windows. Past the city I once walked through invisible, toward the future that now looked exactly like mine. It all comes full circle. Not with vengeance, but with vision. A year after that infamous walkout, I was invited to the Global Founders Summit in Geneva. The theme? Voices that rose from silence. It felt surreal. The last time I'd worn a blazer, it was to defend my worth in a boardroom that had already made its decision. This time, I wasn't defending anything. I was being honored. They flew me out first class, put me in a penthouse suite, even had my name printed in gold on the itinerary. Olivia Brooks, keynote speaker. I stood backstage, breathing slow, fingertips pressed together. Not nervous, just grounded. A stagehand whispered, "You ready?" I nodded. Always have been. The spotlight hit. The applause rolled like thunder. I walked out, took the mic, smiled, and began. I was fired for being too quiet, too patient, too technical, too soft. They were wrong about all of it, except the quiet part, because silence is where I wrote my comeback. I spoke for 20 minutes. Not about revenge, but about rebuilding. About women who write code no one credits. About ideas stolen in bright-lit offices. About how the quiet ones don't just survive, they reinvent. When I stepped down, the room rose. A full standing ovation. A row of young women in the front wiped their eyes. And in the third row, in a cheap suit, beside a name tag that just said G. Harrison. I saw him.
Greg.
Not on stage. Not behind a podium. Just watching. Mouth shut. No one clapped near him. It was like the room itself had forgotten him. After the gala, a girl approached me. She couldn't have been older than 19. My professor told me to follow your story. I'm starting my own app. Can I send you a demo? I took her hand, smiled, and said, don't wait for permission. Build like they're already watching. Back home, I hung the summit medal on my office wall. Next to it, I framed a screenshot. The last Slack message Greg ever sent before firing me. You're dismissed. Beneath it, I taped my response from the Arden Core launch post. You tried to delete me, but I rewrote the ending. Final narration. They fired me thinking it was the end of my story, but it was the opening scene of theirs, where everything crumbled the moment I walked away.
And now?
They can keep watching. From the seats I once wasn't allowed to sit in.